All right, back again. Another preview with Alexi. How you doing, man? How you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm all right. I apologize to the people. I'm a little stuffed up. I'm a little sick, so I apologize for that. And I apologize for the bed in the background there. It's not a trap house I live in. I'm just trying to move, and well, I'm just finishing moving. So is what it is. So we're again to anybody new watching. Please like, subscribe. Uh, If you're not a subscriber on YouTube already, please go over there and subscribe. Please like the video. Get involved in the comments because that's what we're about here. We want to talk about the match. We want to talk about the preview and what's going on and what we expect from the team. So let's just get into it. Alexi, so West Brom Albion. Last time we played them, a little cagey, right? It felt a bit cagey.
Yeah, well, yeah, that game, I remember thinking at the time after we won, we were very, very lucky to win that. I mean, because I think they had a goal disallowed or something, or a penalty disallowed, and then we went up pitch and got a penalty. And they gave us a really tough game. But overall, they penalty disallowed, and then they just aren't a great team at all. I think they've won one out of their last 10 games. Their top scorer has 5 goals in the league. They're really not very good at all. It's kind of like it's a championship level squad playing in the Premier League, but they do have Sam Allardyce, who with these type of squads, he does really well. He's really, really good at getting a group of players that fairly low quality, and keeping them in the Premier League. I mean, he even managed it with Sunderland, who, many thought Sunderland were gone when he came in, and they ended up mid-table. And West Brom aren't good, we know that, but I still worry a bit because we thought Sheffield United weren't any good. And regardless of how good a team is, if we play another team and they just sit in their own penalty area, a low block, it is just hard to break them down. Because, I mean, City drew with West Brom this season and Liverpool drew with them because while obviously City and Liverpool played much better than West Brom, they just couldn't break them down. But I think we've definitely shown in the last couple of games, like against Everton and Southampton, for example, that I think we've worked a lot on when teams are sitting back a bit, we switch to play between the wings a bit more, which helps unlock deep defences. I mean, there was loads of it against Southampton. Like one of the goals came from it, didn't it? Wasn't it across from Shaw to Wan-Bissaka, and it was a goal.
It was across from Wan-Bissaka. And like you're saying, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. We have seemed to be getting better at breaking down the low block. And it's not, I think there's a big correlation with Cavani in there too as well, and his movement and just allowing, him to pull defenders out of the box. He pulls defenders with him wherever he's going. Like he fills those lanes very well. And that's kind of the difference with him and Martial, right? Because Martial's all about running at players. So these players just sit and they wait and they pack the box. Cavani's all about finding space. And now that we're starting to cross the ball in more and changing our style up a bit with Cavani, Mr. Ollie, who has no style or no patterns of play, has changed the way we play against some of these teams. And we have seen it, you're right. And I'm not as worried as I used to be when we go up against these teams. I do feel like the inevitability of us scoring is always there. There's no longer you can't hold on forever against us anymore, where it's just we look like we have no ideas. We're starting to get a lot better in that, right? And I'm hoping we continue to see that. Like you mentioned, Sam Allardyce has kept teams up, and I actually don't think he'll be able to do it with this West Brom side because I don't think this West Brom side's good enough. They don't have any notable players. They're not known for a strong defense. And so there's a lot of things that we're not seeing from them. And this is a good comment here. We scored 16 goals in 13 games when Cavani is up front. We scored 25 in 12 when Martial is up front. Okay. All right. That's a decent comment. At the end of the day, the way I look at this is I would still start Cavani. But But the only reason I wouldn't, if I wasn't going to start Cavani, and we'll obviously get into that, was just because the Cavani health issues, right? And like you said, we were lucky to win the last game. Getting the penalty was I love getting penalties. I'm not gonna lie. I love what's been happening with us every time we get penalties and people go crazy. But something I wanted to talk about, something I had noted down. Have you noticed ever since Klopp and Jose Mourinho went on their little press run about United penalties and United diving, how many penalties have we had? I think we've had one. We have not had a single.
And we've had some weird decisions go against us as well. Like I know I always come back to this game, like the Sheffield United game. Both goals shouldn't have stood. One of them should have stood, and one of them shouldn't, but they were the wrong way round. And then against Everton, I mean, I don't think he was handball, but like they didn't even check the Calvert-Lewin thing. To be fair, that probably wasn't a handball. But yeah, I think you're right. I think Ferguson used to do it all the time as well. It's a good tactic Mourinho and Klopp have used because it gets in the referees' heads a bit, and they suddenly think, oh, hang on. It's like confirmation bias. They think, oh, actually, maybe they don't deserve this, and maybe we won't give this decision. And I think Ollie mentioned that he thought Frank Lampard did it last season before the FA Cup game, because Ollie said there was a few decisions in that game we didn't get, and he suspects it's because Lampard said before United are lucky. But I don't like it because it's happening to us, but I can't criticise what they're doing because it's what Ferguson used to do, and I think it's brilliant.
It's a common, and I know it's a football channel, but it's a common move in the NBA too, working the refs. It's what a lot of good coaches do. You work the referees. It didn't help us that an ex-referee came out and said, yeah, we used to be biased towards United too. That did not help at all. But I can't, you're right. I can't be mad at it because it is what Sir Alex Ferguson used to do. And it is a smart tactic because we are a big side. And it is true. There is a psychology part of being a referee. They are humans. So they are more likely to always lean in the side of not just us, any big team. You got to talk about Liverpool as well. They had plenty of penalties given their way. You talk about City, like when there's a benefit of the doubt, it goes towards the bigger side. And that's just, I think, human nature and human psychology. And that move really helped them because we should have won that Sheffield United game, and we shouldn't really be worried right now about being in one of those bumpy roads of form. And that's something I wanted to talk about before we got into everything. Was we're kind of this is the biggest slate on Ollie, and everybody knows I am Ollie in, obviously, but I'm a manager in guy. I back every manager we have until they give me a reason not to. Ollie has given me no reason not to back him. I backed Jose. People don't believe I did. I backed Jose. I backed LVG, even though that was hard watching that type of football. With Ollie, the biggest knock on him is consistency. Like just consistency. We never feel confident after a big win. Never, because we're always like, what team will show up next? Like, what team's going to show up next? Are we going to have a shocker like we did against Everton and draw at the end of the game? Are we going to keep? Are we going to keep going and go on these runs of form? We had a great run earlier, which was awesome after we lost against Tottenham. This is now. We have to do it now because we see what Leicester's doing. City's not going to lose anytime soon. City's like we're all hoping that City drops some points this week because they do have their double game week, Tottenham and Everton. Those aren't easy matchups. I am hoping for a draw in at least one of them. For me, like at least one goalless draw would be great. That's for fantasy reasons. Won't lie. I got City defenders in a goal. Like, but with that being said, Alexi, what do you think about this consistency issue that always seems to have? Because you look at how Chelsea stayed up last year. Chelsea shouldn't have been a top 4 side, but they had that 20-game win streak basically that cemented the whole season. What do you think about Ollie's consistency? What do you think he needs to do to, or is it the players? What do you think it is?
I think it's slightly harsh to say Ollie definitely has a consistency issue, because if you look at it broadly from about a year ago to now, in terms of league terms, we're really up. I think we've probably got the most points out of anyone. Maybe City have more, but we have been pretty consistent for about a year. But I think there is an issue sometimes, and I don't think it's Ollie's fault. I think it's maybe because I remember after we beat Liverpool, he said, "I'll tell you how good this is if we beat Sheffield United on Wednesday," because he knew that the Sheffield United game would determine the Liverpool game. Because if we went and won the Sheffield United game, it's like, oh, we beat Liverpool, we beat Sheffield United, look how great this is and everything. And I think he knows subconsciously sometimes the players maybe do dip a bit after a big performance. I mean, it's happened quite a lot where, you know, when we lost, when we beat Leipzig, I think we lost to Arsenal. You know, when we beat Liverpool, obviously we lost to Sheffield United. But I think it's harsh to blame Ollie because I think Ollie knows kind of they've got this in them, and he went out of his way to try and prevent it from happening in the Sheffield United game. He literally said in the press conference, you know, we can't be complacent. And I think sometimes, I think for all people say about Ollie's negatives, I think he has a really good grip on this squad now. Generally, I think we are generally quite consistent across period. I know we've had a bit of a dip recently, but I think he's got quite a good hold on the squad. And I think I really get the impression now with Ollie. I mean, I've always kind of felt this, but the players seem to really buy into what he's doing now. And I feel like there's quite a bit of unity because the thing is, like, there's unity in defeats. Like, after Sheffield or whatever, or I remember when we drew with Leicester a few months ago, Bruno came out afterwards and said, the great thing about this is everyone's gutted in there. And then you see, I think when we beat Aston Villa 2-1, they were all hugging Bailly at the end and Ollie looked happy and great. And I think there is a really great team unity, but yeah, it is a bit of an issue sometimes that we do drop off a bit. But I think Ollie will sort that out because I think, well, I know we discussed this before we went on air and stuff, but he is doing a really good job overall. And I think he's getting still disrespected a bit, I think.
See, this is the thing. I really want him to win. I don't care whether it's the FA Cup or the Europa League title, just so everybody can shut up. It's gotten to the point where people have forgotten how upset our entire fan base was. And I mean, like, our entire fan base was upset with the way Jose managed the team at the end. Our entire fan base was going crazy at LVG. And you look at, I actually agree with that comment right there.
Yeah, it's bang on.
And you look at everybody forgetting exactly where we were with those managers, and people are saying, hey, those managers were better than Ollie. They weren't back this Ray, this and that. And they were back. They just chose the wrong players. Ollie wanted Sancho, and he wanted Sancho for a very strong reason. And this always comes up on the terrace, and Terry is extremely good at covering this. All of our attacks go down the left-hand side. All of them. Like the majority of our attacks. There was a big show we did about it recently. It's like all down the left-hand side. Ollie wanted to fix that because our team is in balance without Sancho, without a proper right winger. And Ollie doesn't want, and this is what I love about Ollie's transfer policies. He didn't just bring in any right winger. He could have went after Sarr. I just read a report, and this is an interesting one, that we wanted to take Sarr on loan, but we didn't want to. So, but basically, we wanted to take Sarr on loan, but we weren't going to put in any options to buy. And the reasons we weren't going to do that is because we had no interest of actually keeping him on. It was just to cover us while he was there. And they disagreed with that. So they didn't loan him because they're like, well, if you're not going to buy him from us, we're not going to loan him if you have no interest. And I like that. I like hearing that because that means Ollie has a plan. And he's like, no, it's Jadon Sancho, or we're going to bring in Diallo, a young kid who has the potential to be him, but we're not going to just get a Sarr. We're not going to just bring in players. Like, you saw LVG, he's like, ooh, I wanted this player, and I ended up with Morgan Schneiderlin. Well, you didn't have to buy Morgan Schneiderlin. That was you. Buy Darmian.
It's like Mourinho. Mourinho really wanted Perisic. Mourinho wanted Willian. And I mean, I think I saw Gary Neville talking about this a while ago after Mourinho got sacked. He said Mourinho's moaning about not getting a centre-back. And yeah, I mean, Mourinho's completely right in the sense that the Glazers are terrible and the way the structure of the club is bad and the ownership it's all a mess. But Gary Neville said, if I was running a club and a manager came to me and said, I want to spend 60 million right now on Jerome Boateng, because that's someone Mourinho wanted. It was very injury prone and everything. You probably you wouldn't let it happen because it is such a short term fix. Whereas Ollie is more forward thinking, and I feel like there's actually a proper transfer strategy developing now under Ollie. He kind of looks at things and goes, I want this profile of player, and if we can't get a right winger, we'll wait. He doesn't just go, oh, let's go and get Perisic or Willian, or because Arsenal went and got Willian, and they're not enjoying him. I'm telling you that. They're really not enjoying him at all.
What a terrible mistake that was. But yeah, so I wanted to move into the starting 11s, who we think we should start, because I do want to give people a chance to go watch the Tottenham City game. I know we could talk for days about this. So for the attack, who would you be picking in your attack for this game? Like, you can go through your team top to bottom, since just the two of us.
Yeah, I'll go through. So let's go through the whole thing. I mean, yeah. So I mean, forward wise, I've gone for Greenwood, Rashford, and Cavani. I think Greenwood has been brilliant in the last few weeks, and I read quite an interesting article in The Athletic about him, and they were kind of just detailing the fact that even though he's not been scoring loads, his overall contribution to the team has soared. Because before he was, because before he was brilliant, but it was kind of like he was only really scoring and didn't contribute that much else really. But now he just looks more complete, and he's developing into a really great all-round player now, which is really exciting. And I think it's maybe it's a good thing because Ollie took him out of the limelight for a bit, put him back in now, and it is working. And I think Cavani and Rashford. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it was Martial because he's not looked too bad. But I think Cavani didn't play against West Ham, did he?
He came on.
Was it? Did he come on? Yeah. So I imagine it will be Cavani starting because I guess Martial played a big proportion of that game. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's my front three. What would you go for?
My front three, I keep trying to find moments to rest Rashford because as much as he's been giving us goal contributions in every game so far recently, he hasn't been having the best games. He hasn't been having his those top performances. He does look a little tired, and I'm a big Rashford fan, so I do believe he needs a little bit of a rest. Just one game. And this is, I look at this game and I see this game as the way to rest him. I would start Greenwood, I would start Martial, and I would start Dan James. And then bring on Cavani if you have to. I like the bringing on of Cavani because Cavani is definitely the type of player who sits and watches the game and sees what he needs to do to come on to impact it. And if we're not beating West Brom, it's not going to just be Cavani coming on. It'll be Rashford as well. He'll bring like a cavalry approach. So, and I read a great article about how Ollie does his subs too. He waits till around the 63rd minute. He likes to wait and react. It's basically what he does. He doesn't overreact, but at the half if someone's playing poorly, he waits and reacts to put in the right players and then switch the system. So I'd actually start Greenwood, Dan James, and Martial up front. Because there's not going to be many games you can do that and feel confident about it. And Dan James, he's looked decent every time we've kind of played him, but it's always been in these games where it's like he can do his thing, run around, get into space. That's who I would play up top. What about your midfield? Who would be your midfield pairing?
See, this is kind of a difficult one because Pogba being injured kind of just throws you off a bit with who to pick because then you've got a pool of players that kind of get rotated a bit. I mean, so this might be too defensive, but I'm just thinking, I just think it's going to be a bit of a scrap this game. I think West Brom are just going to be a very aggressive team. So for that reason, I've gone for Bruno, obviously, and then McTominay, who well, he's just been brilliant recently. I think he's just stepped it up massively. His finishing's been amazing, and I've also gone with Nemanja Matic because I think if it gets a bit scrappy in midfield and we need to win headers, which we're not very good at the moment, winning headers, I think it would kind of be good to have Matic there, and also kind of similar thing. I mean, Fred played a lot of the game, and I think for me personally, I don't think West Brom away is a game where I would turn to Fred because I think if there's a lot of physicality in midfield, I'm not sure he'd be the guy I would go to. And I think he's more of a player you'd play in Real Sociedad on Thursday.
Yeah.
To kind of, I think he's more suited to that kind of game. So yeah, I'd go for those three. And yeah, I think Matic will play, and hopefully that will mean we can actually head things out of the box for once.
Yeah, that's a good shout. I completely forgot about the Europa League games coming up, which is now I completely stick to my front three because we have to rest. Because it does not feel like Ollie's going to throw away the Europa League. He's given no indication that he's not going to take the tournament serious. You know how like Jurgen and those guys like to seed, oh, well, I'll need to do this, and there's too many fixtures. Ollie hasn't moaned about the fixtures at all. That's like to give him props. Out of all the managers, he has not talked about fixture congestion. He's talked about wanting more subs so he can rest players throughout games, but he hasn't talked about fixture congestion, which good on him. My midfield would definitely be Bruno because Bruno gets picked just at this point, there's no reason to think he's not getting picked. If he doesn't, I'll be shocked. Scott rested last game. He came on late. So it was for a reason, I believe. And I agree with you on the Matic start. Start Matic because you will want – Matic can play only so many games in a row, right? So before you need to drop him, you will want Fred for Sociedad. Like I think he suits how that game is going to go. And you may play around with a Donny in the Sociedad game because Ollie seems to like playing Donny in the European competitions. And he seems to have moved Donny to kind of a cup guy. And I'm not saying he's not taking the Europa League serious when he plays Donny, but I think it's going to be more suited to his game to play against Real Sociedad. So I would go with the same midfield. I actually would go with the exact same midfield. The defense, this is where it gets interesting. This is where it gets really interesting. I want to start. I'm going to pick Luke Shaw on the left.
Agreed.
I'm going to pick Luke Shaw on the left. I'm going to pick Aaron Wan-Bissaka on the right. I'm going to pick the same two center backs because I don't think Bailly's fit. But then David De Gea gets dropped.
Yeah, agreed.
David De Gea should be dropped. I think Dino should be the keeper for the next couple games until he slips up. I think this has got to be the message that needs to be sent to David De Gea. All he said, David's got to earn his spot. So the only way to really back that up is by saying, well, Dino, you had a clean sheet, even though you didn't have to do anything. I loved all. I'm gonna out of the side. I love seeing all the stats going out and all the people talking about Dino keeping a clean sheet, this and that. I'm like, did you watch the game? He barely had to do anything. He did command his box a bit, and he did do well in that sense. But I want to see him have a run of games where we get to see more from him, and he hasn't messed up yet. So if he hasn't messed up, then that's it. Yeah, see, this is an interesting quote right here. Like, we need to prioritize what he wants to challenge for. I don't believe Ollie has that in him. I don't believe Ollie has the pick and choose. I think the coming up in the team he came up in, yes, Sir Alex Ferguson used to play the kids or whatnot in a lot of cup competitions. And before I go on, anybody watching, please head over to YouTube, like, subscribe, part of the community, get part of the conversation. But I don't think Ollie has it in him to throw a competition. And I think when Sir Alex Ferguson used to play the kids, he used to do it knowing they were going to win. It wasn't we might lose this game or get them a run. I think he did it because he truly believed that his youngsters were better than the sides he was playing them against. That's what I think he did. I don't think Ollie has a set of youngsters like Sir Alex Ferguson did, so I don't think Ollie will throw this game or throw the Europa League game. Obviously not the West Brom game, but definitely not the Europa League game. Who would you pick in the back? I feel like it'd probably be the same because we just don't have a right back to choose from.
Yeah, so same back four. I mean, you could easily make a case for changing one of the centre backs, but there's no one to come in, so we can't, unfortunately. And yeah, so goalkeeper, I'd go for Dean Henderson because as well, it's a perfect opportunity to bring him in and get confidence up because you think he played against West Ham on Wednesday, then he can play against West Brom tomorrow, and then he could play in the Europa League on Thursday. And suddenly that's 3 games in a row Henderson started, and you've only dropped De Gea for one of them, and you've got him starting 3 in a row. And I think I really love David De Gea, and I really respect David De Gea, but I think we need to hold him to the standards that he holds himself in because I know for a fact he has world-class standards of himself.
Yep.
And I think he'll be really disappointed in himself. And I think he won't want us to accept that his dips in form. He'll want us to go, no, he needs to improve and be better because that's his mentality. He's a world-class player on his day and he has been for years. And I think he won't be happy with what's going on and he'll want to improve. And I think he'll want the same expectations for us for wanting him to get back to that level. And the reality is, you know, if he was at another club, De Gea, where there wasn't a second choice goalkeeper, he probably would keep his place. And he might still keep his place. But I think Dean Henderson, the situation with that, just the whole thing about how he's not played that much this season, and it's clearly his dream to play for us and everything. I think he will play. And I really hope he does well. Because it's such a big chance for him. Because if he plays well in this game and the Sociedad game, I think he'll be the keeper now. Because, you know.
And I think the other implication, Pope's playing really well, right? And Pickford's not. And I think there could be a photo finish at the end of the season if Dean Henderson continues to be the United starting keeper for the Euros. Pope is proven to be a great keeper as well, but I do believe Dean Henderson's a better keeper based on the fact that just Pope plays in a very defensive system. Like it's just how Burnley is. And I think Dino's thinking about that. He wants to be England's number 1. Let's be honest that playing for United is a much bigger challenge than playing for Burnley. It's more pressure. So that would get him more ready. So it would be cool to see him have a great run going into these last few games, especially we got Newcastle coming up too. So you have Sociedad, you have Newcastle. If he can keep clean sheets throughout all these games, then David De Gea, you're stuck to the bench. And this is an interesting thing. This is a thought I've had. This is a thought I've had, and this is a good comment. There's no time for sentiment at the very top. David De Gea himself said, I agree. I completely agree with that.
That's bang on. That's the thing. Sorry. That's one thing is that I see a lot of people saying like, oh, you know, we should give De Gea sympathy because of all he's done for the club and everything. But he doesn't want us to give him sympathy at all. He knows his standards have dropped a bit or his performances have dropped. He wants us to have the highest expectation. And that comment is bang on. You can't have sentiment at the top.
No.
And David De Gea wouldn't want us to have sentiment because he has such high standards as such a top quality goalkeeper.
I completely agree. And it's interesting because this could be an interesting summer. I don't think we would sell David De Gea, to be honest. But let's say he decided, you know, if Dino did finish off the season and he ends up being the number 1, David De Gea could say, hey, I'm happy to stay here and continue to fight for my spot and win trophies because David De Gea loves United. He truly does. Like if there's one thing we can say about the guy is I remember when he re-signed that contract and he came out. Remember LVG had benched him because he was going to be moved. I don't know if you remember that first game when he signed the contract and he came out.
Yeah,
and I was going crazy, and he just
went wild,
and he just like clapped and just was like smiling and basically just in awe of the response he got. That I love the way we handled that situation as a fan base because instead of vitriol and people yelling at him saying "Get out of my club," they were just happy he stayed. And then he put out a big post saying like, "Listen, it was never my intention to make anybody feel uncomfortable about me being here, whatever. His dream was to play for Real Madrid. He didn't lie about it. He goes, but let's not get it messed up. I love being here and I'm going to give my best." And continue to. He gave his best from that point on.
Well, that's the thing he deserves a lot of credit for, definitely.
Oh, I love this. So I've been under the fire for this one. I've recently, you can find it on Twitter, actually, an official pundit. You can find it. I said the gap between Rashford and Mbappe is not that large anymore. And I've been crucified for it. And I'm going to stand on that hill.
I agree with you.
It is no longer.
I fully agree with you.
Like, Marcus Rashford has moved into world-class territory. If you think about the fact that he's clutch, he's won multiple, it's not just, I put the clutch factor in it because that's what really takes you above. Like, when you can be a match winner in big games, PSG, multiple games. I've forgot them, but there's so many games where Rashford has been our match winner. Just the way he plays now, he's so confident, and he's born and bred Manc. Like, that's, you can't hate on a guy who's that's what you need to be great. Is you need those academy kids who come up and they kill it. Like, look at Foden's going to change the City landscape of how we look at City youngsters, because Foden's going to be that, whatever. But United's always been built on a framework of strong academy youngsters, and then you bring in international players around them or other great English talent, right? And Rashford has now continued that with Scott. And it's great to see. And I don't know what people's problems with Rashford is, that he makes poor decisions sometimes. He's still 23.
Every single footballer does that as well. You watch Sadio Mane or you watch Mo Salah. All the top players, they make a lot of bad decisions in the game, because the fact is you don't score with every shot you take, unless you're Ronaldo, but a lot of people aren't Ronaldo. But the top, even the elite level wingers, Neymar, everyone, they miss chances or they make the odd bad decision. But I think Rashford is so unfairly treated, because I saw yesterday, I was looking at his goals so far this season. I kind of worked out percentages and stuff like that. He's well on course, if he carries on, to get 30 goals in all competitions at the age of 23, which is a stunning achievement, really. And I don't think it gets talked about enough, how good he is, It
really doesn't. Hit me up on Twitter, unofficial pundit, we could talk. I appreciate that. Last part of the show, Alexi, what's our score predictions? Both of us have been off. I'll never forget the Sheffield United. I'm happy we weren't on the review for that one after, because we look bad. And everybody watching this, again, please hit the subscribe button, the like button, head over to YouTube. Just trying to build the subscribers over on YouTube. We're getting tons of traction on Twitter. Let's get that over to YouTube as well. But Alexi, score predictions. Maybe we'll get this one right.
Oh, do you know what? We need to get one right, because we've been so off on all of them, haven't we? 3. No, it's not going to be 3-0. 2-0, and Rashford is going to score twice, and it will only fuel our agenda that he is nearly at the same point as Mbappe, and that people need to respect the guy more, because he's just brilliant.
I'm going out on a whim. I'm doing it again. 4-0 FC. This has to be it. I want 4-0 FC. I'm praying for it, because I think West Brom is vulnerable right now. Sam is going to play his low block. He's going to try and keep us out. We're going to score a goal, and Sam's going to be like, well, I got to try and go get one. And I feel like United right now is in a great run of form, not great run of form. They're up and down, and I think this is going to be one of the ups that leads into the Newcastle Sociedad game. I'm hoping it's 4-0 FC. That's just being ambitious, if I'm going to be honest, and that's just what I'm hoping for. I don't know if I believe that. I'm saying it out loud because I'm hoping it comes true. I mean, the Scott McTominay goal came true, right? I literally said on the preview before I'm like, Scott McTominay, long shots, we need him in there. Let's hope. I'm trying to push this one live. Everybody who's been watching, again, thank you. Like and subscribe to the video. I'm definitely going to be watching the Tottenham City game intently. And then tomorrow, let's come on United. Let's get a W and keep going. Alexi, thank you for joining me again. And we'll be back.
Yeah, cheers. Pleasure.
We'll be back for Sociedad, because I know Ahmed has a dossier, he told me, of what he wants to talk about with Sociedad, so I'm going to leave that one to him. But I will be back for Newcastle. And yeah, that being said, take care, everybody. Peace.